think it's important to say that, anyone who has experienced or been in the United States for any period of time and experienced this country's history and knows it cannot have believed that it would be easy to elect a woman president, let alone a woman of color. Let's just be clear. And nothing that was true yesterday about how flawlessly this campaign was run is not true now. I mean, this really was an historic, flawlessly run campaign. Queen Latifah never endorses anyone. She came out and endorsed.
Is there something you can point to in your life, political life or in your life in the last 4 years, that you think is a mistake that you have learned from?
I mean, I've made many mistakes, and they range from, if you've ever parented a child, you make lots of mistakes too. In my role as vice president, I mean, I've probably worked very hard at making sure that I am well versed on issues, and I think that is very important. It's a mistake not to be well versed on an issue and feel compelled to answer a question.
Is there something you can point to?
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Speechless. Thank you so much for joining. I am your host, Phares, 23-year-old conservative activist, law student here at Liberty University, and so excited to be talking to you guys on this unprecedented day in American politics. And I think it's really deep as to why I say it's unprecedented. We hear that all the time, especially in recent years, that this is an unprecedented time in American politics. But what does that really mean? Well, let's talk about it. First off, Donald Trump becomes the second president in American history and the first president in well over 100, maybe even close to 150 years to ever win non-consecutively, to win and then lose and then win again, and that's how he serves off his second term. He's also the first Republican in just about 20 years that has won both the popular vote and the Electoral College, and not to mention the fact that there's even unprecedented sides on the unprecedented issues on the Democrat side. When you look at the fact that Kamala did not address her fans last night, and obviously we can even pull up the election map now, and we can see the fact that I'm on I got a lot of tabs open here, producing my own show. That seems to be what happens, but we can see Kamala quite obviously lost last night significantly. My mouse and keyboard is not working. All good. We could see last night that she did, in fact, lose. And despite the fact, the media is saying that, oh my gosh, she ran her campaign flawlessly. Flawlessly. Huh. What an interesting word to use for her campaign, considering the fact that it seemed like every area, every facet of her campaign seemed to have some level of a flaw. She could not engage voters. She could not engage the average person whatsoever. And now the left is scrambling for an answer. Why did Kamala lose? Why did Kamala lose? Here we go. I could pull up the map right here, present my screen. We could take a look at the election night map. We get clearly Michigan, I believe, actually it's very, very close, but that state might be actually getting called for Kamala. I got a Fox News update recently that said it might be. It says Democrats hold on to key seat in battleground. Oh, it must be just a singular seat. Must be one of these in like the Marquette area, Flint, Detroit. But we can see that Donald Trump had a very, very promising win all night. I mean, there was never really a point where he was down or even looked like he was going to be down. We don't even need to worry about Arizona and Nevada, which were considered key swing states. He basically walked away with the majority of what they called toss-up. Pennsylvania being within +1, -1 point for Trump, maybe for Kamala in initial polling. Michigan, Wisconsin, even leaning Kamala at one point. Georgia leaning Kamala at one point. North Carolina being just barely for Trump. We see that Donald Trump walked away with this election, and Democrats are scrambling to find a reason. How could this have happened? How could their golden child have lost? Well, I'll tell you. I'll tell you exactly how their golden child lost. The way that Kamala Harris lost was because she didn't listen to anybody. And we're going to talk. Obviously, she's going to be coming out soon, and she will be speaking. We're going to live stream that here. We're going to react to it. But I want to just talk about we'll take a look. This is the announcement that was made last night at her election party. This was the announcement that was made at her election party last night, with all of her volunteers, everybody there. This transcends politics, everybody. Take a look and a listen. And if you are watching, guys, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment what you think, and share it with your friends. But take a look and a listen to this from last night at her election party. It seems that, let's refresh this page here. Maybe there's a little bit of an issue with the video. Maybe they took it down. Maybe they're embarrassed of it. Here we go.
Thank you for you. I want to say good evening to all of the Harris campaign, the campaign family. Thank you for all that you have done. Thank you for being here. Thank you for believing in the promise of America. We still have votes to count. We still have states that have not been called yet. We will continue overnight to fight to make sure that every vote is counted, that every voice has spoken. So you won't hear from the vice president tonight, but you will hear from her tomorrow. She will be back.
You can hear the people in the background going, what? What?
Back here tomorrow to address not only the HU family, not only to address her supporters, but to address the nation. So thank you. We believe in you. May God bless you. May God keep you. And go HU and go Harris. Thank you all.
Man, a very subdued cheer in the background there. Look at that crowd, and to get such a subdued cheer in that background. Wow, wow, wow. The reason why this is so unprecedented, why this is huge, is because think about all these people, all those people that you can see in that crowd right back there. It doesn't give you that much, but all those people that are standing right there, they have been there all day. Not just there. You want to know where else they've been? They've been working the polls. They've been doing the work. They've been helping out Kamala Harris. And they've been, not even just them, but even the supporters nationwide. This transcends politics. I do not care whether you are a Republican, a Democrat, an independent. What goes into a campaign, any campaign, let alone a presidential campaign, is a significant amount of boots on the ground work, words said to voters nationwide, and especially in only 3 months, while she had years to build up a record that could have been presidential worthy. She did not, but she could have. But she had all these people that were standing there waiting to hear from her, and she let them down. Look, I don't support Kamala Harris, and honestly, I try to find a good reason why, and I'm baffled. I can't find a good reason why somebody would support Kamala Harris. Let me know in the comments if you can tell me a good reason why you would support Kamala Harris. I can't. That said, there are a lot of people that do, and there's a lot of people that put time, effort, and energy into working for her. And it shows who she is as a human, that she would not even show her face when it was so clear she was getting her ass beat. That shows the kind of person that Kamala Harris is. And if you're not disappointed in that at a human level, then I can't. I don't know how to help you. I don't know how to help you. She will be coming up and speaking at Howard soon, where she was supposed to speak last night, right around that same area. We're following closely onto all the different pages so we can pull it up here and bring it on the screen for you, and we can react to it in real time. But like I said, here we go. Or that's the election night update. Maybe we'll go to her specific page, and we'll take a look and keep an eye on what's going on with that. But it is very, very indicative of the kind of person that she is, that she would not even face her supporters nothing is up here yet. Like I said, we will keep an eye out. Maybe it's even on the YouTube, on maybe her YouTube channel, YouTube Kamala Harris, and we'll react to it here live for everybody, so that we can just really break down this kind of a loss, because this truly shows what this shows is what happens when you run on no policy, when you run and you don't say any, and you never talk about to the people as if they are people. Kamala Harris never talked to a single person and understood what they said. And that truly shows. You have all these people searching for reasons as to, oh my gosh, why didn't Kamala win? Why didn't Kamala win? In fact, if you watched The View today, you should have actually. It's the one day I would say you should watch The View. It was hilarious. You have people like Sunny Hostin coming out, and here's what she had to say.
I'm surprised at the result, but I'm not surprised. As a woman of color, I was so hopeful that a mixed race woman married to a Jewish guy could be elected president of this country. And I think that it had nothing to do with policy. I think this was a referendum of cultural resentment in this country.
Well, I think it.
It had nothing
I'm
to do with.
surprised at the result.
One more time. Listen to a little bit of that right there.
Could be elected president of this country. And I think that it had nothing to do with policy. I think this was a referendum of.
It had nothing to do with policy. I will agree with Sunny Hostin there. It did have nothing to do with policy, but that wasn't Trump's fault. It wasn't because of Trump supporters' fault, because basically the implicit idea of what she's saying right there is that it's all Trump supporters. They're all racist. Everybody's racist. It's all about sexism, racism, blah, 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 blah. I'm a woman of color, and it's all because women of color, blah, blah. No. It had nothing to do with policy, because Kamala couldn't articulate a policy. What it really had to do with is the fact that people were not listened to by the Democrats. Or at least they didn't feel listened to by any means. People were not listened to by the Democrats, and it really, really showed. And I'm going to go into that a little bit later. I do want to make sure that I don't eat into any time of this potential concession speech we're supposed to be getting from at some point. Apparently, Kamala has already called Trump and conceded to him via phone. I'm really interested to see if she talks at all about that phone call in and of itself. I'm also interested about the fact, apparently, Kamala spoke. I'm sorry, not Kamala. Joe Biden called Donald Trump and gave his and talked to him about coming over to the White House, having a little play date to talk about what's going to be happening soon in the transition of power. So it seems like a lot of things are gearing up, obviously, for Trump to take over 47. A lot of people are very excited, but there's also a lot of questions to be answered. And while we await Kamala Harris's concession speech that we're very excited to see, of course, I'm cautiously optimistic, because even Letitia James, the AG of New York, came out and said that she has a, quote, contingency plan about what to do when Trump takes power. What does that mean? Also, Trump on November 26th, I believe, has a sentencing hearing regarding his 34 felony counts. My boy has a sentencing hearing regarding his 34 felony counts. What's going to happen with that? Is he going to pardon himself? How's that going to work? Fascinating time to be in American politics, and I really don't know how it's going to shake out. But everybody, if you want to make sure that you don't miss a minute of it, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment what you think, share it with your friends. Make sure you subscribe. Do not miss a minute of it. Ring that notification bell. Hit it to all so you don't miss anything. And check me out on all the different platforms, because you never know when ScrewTube or Instagram or anything like that will try to keep me out of the loop. So everybody, stay tuned. Kamala Harris seems to be coming out soon. Let's see when this is going to come up. Is this, it seems as though the audio isn't even, they don't even have audio for it yet, I don't think. So let's reload the site just to see. I do know that there are obviously several prominent Democrats there at Howard University. I believe Howard, I don't know if it's exactly where she got her law degree, but I believe it's where Kamala went for her undergrad. I think she got her law degree in California. But we will see exactly what Kamala has to say. Predictions. What do you guys think she's going to talk about? I wonder what she will blame this on. I think that's really the heart of what the Democrats are having happen right now. Because what it truly was is the American people were not listened to by Democrats. They did not feel like the candidate was listening to them at all. But how could they? Not only did Kamala not even try to listen to them at the onset of the campaign, it was clear that Kamala was not going to listen to them in the entire fact of her nomination period. Think about it. Kamala did not receive a single vote to be the presidential candidate for the Democrat Party. Nobody voted for her through a primary process. So the party of democracy ignores the entire concept of democracy. The people were not listened to from day one of her campaign. I mean, you could say even prior to day one and the entire policy of which they're putting forth. So, of course, the people don't feel listened to. But what will she say? How do you address a nation when you have said for your entire campaign and prior to that a Donald Trump presidency would mean the end of America? That he's a threat to democracy, that he's basically Hitler. How would you reckon with that? How would you reckon with that? I see, don't say explode in your title. You don't want YouTube to flag you for silly clickbait. She's gonna explode. In some way, she's gonna explode. I know it to be true. I can predict the future, and I will point out the exact moment at which Kamala explodes. I will point it out. There will be an exact moment at which Kamala explodes. And it might be an implosion, an explosion from within, but it will happen. Kamala has already exploded. And here's how I know Kamala has already exploded. This is not clickbait, everybody. Kamala has already exploded. Kamala has exploded, and you know this to be true from the fact that she did not even walk out and address her people last night. Now, any self-respecting politician, which I guess it might be too much credit to say that Kamala even respects herself, because she doesn't even respect the people that work for her. But any self-respecting politician would get out and say thank you to those that worked for her. She would get out there and say, she doesn't even have to concede last night or anything. She could have come out and at least said, thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate the support you have given me. Polls are still closing. Votes are still being counted. But thank you for coming and thank you for all the work you've done. The reason why she did not go out, the reason why Kamala did not speak last night is because she was exploding. Because she was breaking down. Because she could not articulate a coherent thought or sentence because of the rage I guarantee you she was feeling. So I saw this too. I know that that's for the January 6th ones. I don't know if that's for the New York ones that he was indicted, that he was found guilty of. When you're found guilty of something in the court system, if you're found guilty of something in the court system, you're going to be sentenced for that. I mean, there'd have to be the New York one, the New York fraud case that he was found 34 felony counts. Also, what happened with the Georgia one? I guess I haven't been following the RICO case in Georgia. The documents one in Florida, I think was dropped. The January 6th one with Jack Smith, I know that one was dropped with because Jack Smith it's being talked about being removed. But he has a sentencing date. I don't know anything about, if you can find a source on the sentencing date, I'd be really interested to see that. But anyways, Kamala, I want to go back. I want to make sure that this is clear. I was not using clickbait by any means. Kamala has already exploded, and she will explode even further on this. I guarantee it. And I'm willing to point it out, and I will tell you exactly the point. I will find the moment during it. I will take a timestamp of it, and we will go back afterwards, and I will say, this is the moment Kamala Harris exploded. Kamala Harris is going to explode during the speech. She exploded last night. That's why she didn't speak to her supporters, because her entire, and this is not just a woman thing. A lot of people, I'm sure people will come in at me for saying this, and they'll be like, oh my God, you're so sexist, blah, blah, blah. No, Kamala Harris is an incredibly emotional person. And she's not an emotional person simply because she's a woman. Kamala Harris is an emotional person because she doesn't actually have any policy to rely on. Think about it. What were the tenets of her campaign? The tenets of her campaign were vibes, joy. Can you feel? Beyonce said, I'm paraphrasing the quote, but Beyonce said at her rally, Kamala Harris's rally that Beyonce attended and did not sing at, Beyonce said, can you feel the energy here? It's all about emotion. It was all about the way you feel. Well, Kamala Harris last night was angry and she exploded. And so that's why she didn't speak. Kamala Harris, it's a to quote Kamala Harris, it is, or I'm sorry, to quote Hillary Clinton, also a paraphrasing quote, it is a amazing thing that someone with the temperament and emotion of Kamala Harris is not in the Oval Office. And as Trump says, because you'd be in jail. Because you'd be in jail, Kamala. You'd be in jail. And I think it's funny to even go back. We're still waiting on exactly if this will actually play out. But I think it was absolutely fascinating to see Joy Reid earlier today say specifically that Kamala has run a flawless campaign. A flawless campaign, really. Really, Kamala's run a flawless campaign. I was trying to decide earlier today when I was getting ready to do some of the stream. I was trying to find the point as to which, or like which specific clip I wanted to bring up to show how flawed Kamala's
been in the United States.
Listen to Joy Reid right here say how Kamala ran a flawless campaign.
You know, anyone who has experienced or been in the United States for any period of time and experienced this country's history and knows it cannot have believed that it would be easy to elect a woman president, let alone a woman of color. Let's just be clear. And nothing that was true yesterday about how flawlessly this campaign was run is not true now. I mean, this really was an historic, flawlessly run campaign. Queen Latifah never endorses anyone. She came out and endorsed.
It was a flawlessly run campaign. Let me know. And also, I'm seeing this comment. I haven't heard Kamala speak yet. Letting you guys know. We are still waiting. I'm keeping an eye on it. She will come out eventually. She'll have to and face the facts. She's there. She was at least on her way. She should be coming out any moment. So she will be out soon. I'll even make sure. So for anybody that comes in, I'll put a banner at the top. Or I'll put a banner that comes in any moment. Kamala will be making her concession speech. But Joy Reid seems to think that this was an absolutely flawless campaign. Let me know in the comments, what do you guys think would be the most interesting flaw of her campaign? Is it the fact that maybe she didn't do a single press conference, an actual press conference, her entire campaign, her entire 3-month campaign? Maybe even the flaw would be the conception of her campaign. The fact that it came not by vote, but by resignation of Joe Biden. Maybe it was the fact that when she was asked about her belief in Joe Biden's policy, she supported it and said that he had done nothing wrong. How? And then you have really, really smart people that come out and are honest with the American people. Scott Jennings being one of them. Again, I'll keep an eye on when this is going to be coming up, but take a look and listen at Scott Jennings giving a breakdown as to, in part, why he believes Kamala lost this. Oh, I see that there is no audio. My apologies for that. This happens sometimes when I am doing my own, here we go. Let's get this, I gotta stop sharing. This happens sometimes. Very sorry about that. Let's get that back up. This is a revenge, is what he says.
is a mandate to do what you said you were going to do. Get the economy working again for regular working class Americans, fix immigration, try to get crime under control, try to reduce the chaos in the world. This is a mandate from the American people to do that. I think I'm interpreting the results tonight as the revenge of just the regular old working class American, the anonymous American who has been crushed, insulted, condescended to. They're not garbage. They're not Nazis. They're just regular people who get up and go to work every day and are trying to make a better life for their kids. And they feel like they have been told to just shut up when they have complained about the things that are hurting them in their own lives. I also feel like this election, as we sit here and pour over this tonight, is something of an indictment of the political information complex. I mean, we've been sitting around here for the last couple of weeks, and the story that was portrayed was not true. I mean, we were told Puerto Rico was going to change the election. Liz Cheney, Nikki Haley voters, women lying to their husbands. Before that, it was Tim Walz and the camo hats. Night after night after night, we were told all these things and gimmicks were going to somehow push Harris over the line. And we were just ignoring the fundamentals. Inflation, people feeling like that they were barely able to tread water at best. That was the fundamentals of the election. And so I think that both parties should always look at the results of an election and figure out what went right and what went wrong.
Absolutely. And he calls it like revenge and everything like that. I wouldn't even necessarily say it's just revenge. I would say you had people that were not listened to by one side. Like, that's the thing, is you had people telling you, here's what I will vote for. You had people telling you, like, blatantly, you had Kamala Harris. People were telling Kamala Harris, this is what I will vote for. And she would say, oh, so this? And people would be like, no, not that. Not that. Instead, she wanted to focus significantly on things like abortion. Well, comes down to it, not many people were actually that focused on abortion. If you look at what people were actually focusing on, they were looking at the economy. They were looking at immigration. And in fact, we can look at this Fox News voter analysis right here. People were focusing on the economy, immigration. Abortion was number 3. It was up there. But you have to have more than 11% of the vote to win an election. And she was focusing on these bottom 3 issues. She was trying to scrounge up votes from what's left in the strainer when you're trying to mine for gold. Instead, Donald Trump is getting the water. He's getting everybody, your average person. Kamala Harris was appealing to the elites, the people that don't have to worry about the economy because they're up here on money anyways. The people that don't have to worry about immigration because their ivory tower is so high up anyways. And they were so high up in their ivory towers. They were holding their nose so hard at those lowly garbage men, that, as Joe Biden would call it, that their ears got plugged up to. And that is why they lost. But then you have people that are still coming out. And again, we're keeping an eye on the Kamala Harris stuff. We're getting ready. We're waiting for when she actually decides to come out. Originally, it was supposed to be 6 p.m. Eastern time. Now it's 4 p.m. Eastern time. We'll see. It looks like they might be testing the mics right now. I have another live stream of it from Fox on my TV, so I can keep an eye to make sure that it's not just my internet, so we can react to this real time with everybody. But then you still have a lot of these elites who are coming out. Like I said, Sunny Hostin earlier, who came out, and she decided to even double down further. Then they brought on an ABC News analyzer, a person who is doing an analysis of the election and everything. And this is what Sunny Hostin had to say then, after already making one statement that was saying, oh, it's all about race. Then she makes this one.
Well, I want to dig further into the demographics because Black women tried to save this country. Again, last night, 92% of Black women voted for the vice president. You have Latinas in the 70 percentile voting for the vice president. What we did not have is white women who voted about 52%, right, for Donald Trump. Uneducated white women, is my understanding. Oh. You have Latino men, actually, voting more for him. And you have, and Black men was not the story. We're not the story here because they voted almost 80% for the vice president. Right. So why do you think that uneducated.
So she says right there, and the guy responds, but I think it's really important to see what Sunny Hostin says, because Sunny Hostin is the one that's speaking to a lot of these, because this is a daytime show, a lot of these women that are actually watching. And so what she says, and this is what she's been saying the whole time, is it's all about race and it's all about gender. I want to dive into the demographics. Once again, not listening to what the voters are saying. She's not listening to what the voters are saying. She wants to dive into the demographics. She wants to generalize you. She wants to make it, she does exactly what the Democrat Party does and what the leftists do, is she wants to make it all about your race, the way you look, the way that you were born. She doesn't want to actually care about what you are seeing and what you are feeling, the lived experience. They always want to talk about lived experience. Oh, the lived experience of the African American, blah, 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 blah. This is the lived experience of the African American. This is the lived experience of the white American. This is the lived experience of the Hispanic American. And you did not give any type of a crap. And that's why you lost. It's not because of white women, as Sunny Hostin would have you believe. It's not because of anything other than your own inability to get out of your ivory tower and talk to the average American person. That's where the issue lied the entire time. That's where the issue lied. It is simply because you did not listen. And also, she says in that clip that I played, Sunny Hostin said, she does not necessarily think that, like, oh, well, it's black men still showed up for Harris. Here's the difference, is in 2020, black men went 11% for Trump. 2024, black men went overwhelmingly 24 to 25% for Trump. And while that's still a minority of obviously still 75, 80% going for Kamala, that is a major, major gain. That is a major gain. And so that's what happens. That's how you lose. That is how you lose, is when you say, oh, well, we're still winning. We're still winning. We're still winning. Because apparently we still get 80%. Well, you lost compared to the last election. You lost a lot more. And that's how you get things like this. Jake Tapper being, this is last night, Jake Tapper being absolutely so surprised at the outcomes.
So you asked, are there any places that the vice president is overperforming Joe Biden in 2020? So we could show you that as well. We just bring that out here. Harris overperforming in 2020.
Holy smokes.
There you go. So let this go away and see if there's anything on the east side there.
Literally nothing?
Literally nothing.
Literally not one county?
Literally not one county? Not one county. Kamala Harris did not overperform, did not do better this time than Joe Biden did ever. Like, Kamala Harris did not do better anywhere. Anywhere. And you're wondering, oh my God, what happened? What happened? What happened? What will Kamala Harris say happened? She's delayed by 20 minutes now. 20 minutes after originally the start time was supposed to happen. It's supposed to be around 4 p.m. And like, this is not, I can't necessarily make this like a major hit on Kamala. This is something that happens fairly often in politics. In a lot of different events like this, is you have a scheduled start time. You say, oh, it's going to happen around this time. We're going to see what we're going to have everybody around this time. And she's obviously not out yet. She should be out within the next, I'd say 10 to 20 minutes is what my guess. Again, I'm not there. I don't know. But we will be right here covering all of it. I keep seeing on a separate live stream as well, there's people that have been coming out testing mics and such. And many people just giving commentary as we currently see it. But this election is truly the tale. It's the reckoning. It is the reckoning with the elites. And people like we heard earlier from that CNN analyst, this is a reckoning in the fact that you have average people that are not garbage. They're not Nazis. They're not fascists or fascist sympathizers. Average people caring about average things. The most important issues facing the country: economy, jobs, and immigration. And if you ever tuned into a Donald Trump rally, what was he talking about almost every time? Economy, jobs, and immigration. What did he always want to talk about? Economy, jobs, and immigration. And yes, he'd sprinkle in some things. When asked questions about abortion, he'd sprinkle things about that in. When asked questions about healthcare, he'd sprinkle things like that in. But no, overall, it was economy, jobs, immigration. The difference between the Kamala campaign and the Trump campaign, if you had to boil it down to a single theme, was messaging. Trump had a message. Kamala did not. Truly, substantively, Trump had a message. Kamala did not. That was the main difference that we see. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. We're still waiting on the vice president and loser Kamala Harris to join the stream. Yeah, she's going to join the stream actually from Howard University to talk. I'm joking, by the way, just in case anybody's actually thinking Kamala's going to come talk to me. I don't even think if I had the following that she expected or that she would want, that she would still come talk to me. We're waiting on her. Definitely, please make sure that you like, comment, share, all that fun stuff. I'd appreciate it. Go definitely follow me everywhere, but definitely if you're watching on YouTube right now, subscribe to the channel. I'd appreciate it. Still waiting on her, but I want to even say further, like the thing is that some people could argue that Kamala, maybe she was just left in the dark. Maybe she just had too many yes men around her. Maybe that was the issue. Maybe it was just that, oh my gosh, she just didn't have anybody around her that said like this is what people are caring about. And maybe it wasn't her fault. Maybe it was all the people around her. Well, take a look at this clip. Just to remind you of just a few weeks ago when she had her Fox News interview. Take a look and listen to this.
People are exhausted. Of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person holding the office.
Come on.
Madam Vice President.
Both know.
He says at the very beginning, he says that maybe you should listen. People are obviously unhappy. All right, it looks like we're going to be starting here soon. Beyonce finally singing at a Kamala rally. Wow. All right. Here is her moment. Who will she blame?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How many times can she say it?
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So let me say.
It's going to be Trump's fault.
And I love you back. And I love you back. So let me say, my heart is full today. My heart is full today, full of gratitude for the trust you have placed in me, full of love for our country, and full of resolve. The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for, but hear me when I say, the light of America's promise will always burn bright. As long as we never give up, and as long as we keep fighting. To my beloved Doug and our family, I love you so very much. To President Biden and Dr. Biden, thank you for your faith and support.
Oh, that's funny because I guarantee you Jill does not
To
like
Governor Walz
Kamala
and
at
the
all.
Walz family, I know your service to our nation will continue. And to my extraordinary team, to the volunteers who gave so much of themselves.
That you couldn't thank last night?
Workers and the local election officials.
That you couldn't thank last night when they were all there for you?
I thank you. I thank you all. Look, I am so proud of the race we ran and the way we ran it. And the way we ran it. Over the 107 days of this campaign, we have been intentional about building community and building coalitions, bringing people together from every walk of life and background, united by love of country with enthusiasm and joy in our fight for America's future. And we did it with the knowledge that we all have so much more in common than what separates us. Now, I know folks are feeling and experiencing a range of emotions right now. I get
Joy.
it.
Like you said, you wanted joy? I got joy.
But we must accept the results of this election. Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory.
Oh, but I thought he was a
I
threat to
also
democracy.
told him that we will help him and his team with their transition.
The liberal
And
tears
that
in the
we will
audience.
engage in a peaceful transfer of power. A fundamental principle of American democracy is that when we lose an election, we accept the results. That principle, as much as any other, distinguishes democracy from monarchy or tyranny. And anyone who seeks the public trust must honor it. At the same time, in our nation, we owe loyalty not to a president or a party, but to the Constitution of the United States.
Now, why do you constantly try to subvert it?
And loyalty to our conscience and to our God. My allegiance.
When have you
to
ever
all
cared about
three
God? When have you ever
is
cared about
why
God?
I am here to say, while I concede this election, I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign.
What fight? Like you had no central messaging.
The fight for freedom, for opportunity, for fairness, and the dignity of all people. A fight for the ideals at the heart of our nation, the ideals that reflect America at our best. That is a fight I will never give up. I will never give up the fight for a future where Americans can pursue their dreams, ambitions, and aspirations, where the women of America have the freedom to make decisions about their own body and not have their government
Within
telling
2 minutes,
them what
she talks
to
about
do.
God and then talks about the murder of unborn
We will
children.
never give up the fight to protect our schools and our streets from gun violence.
And subverting the Constitution.
And America, we will never give up the fight for our democracy, for the rule of law, for equal justice, and for the sacred idea that every one of us, no matter who we are or where we start out, has certain fundamental rights and freedoms that must be respected and upheld.
Also, if you didn't catch it, she has already exploded.
And we will
I'll go back to it a
continue
little
to
bit
wage
later. And
this
we'll talk
fight
about it.
in the voting booth, in the courts, and in the public square. And we will also wage it in quieter ways, in how we live our lives, by treating one another with kindness and respect, by looking in the face of a stranger and seeing a neighbor, by always using our strength to lift people up, to fight for the dignity that all people deserve. The fight for our freedom will take hard work, but like I always say, we like hard work.
Since when?
Hard work is good work. Hard work can be joyful work. And the fight for our country is always worth it. It is always worth it.
This is a good comment. Good comment down there.
To the young people who are watching, it is, I love you. To the young people who are watching, it is okay to feel sad and disappointed, but please know it's going to be okay. On the campaign, I would often say, when we fight, we win. But here's the thing. Sometimes the fight takes a while. That doesn't mean we won't win. That doesn't mean we won't win. The important thing is don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. Don't ever stop trying to make the world a better place. You have power. You have power. And don't you ever listen when anyone tells you something is impossible because it has never been done before.
That's what Donald Trump did. He won the first time. They told him never going to win.
You have the capacity to do extraordinary good in the world. And so to everyone who is watching, do not despair. This is not a time to throw up our hands. This is a time to roll up our sleeves. This is a time to organize, to mobilize, and to stay engaged for the sake of freedom and justice and the future that we all know we can build together. Look, many of you know I started out as a prosecutor, and throughout my career, I saw people at some of the worst times in their lives. People who had suffered great harm and great pain, and yet found within themselves the strength and the courage and the resolve to take the stand, to take a stand, to fight for justice, to fight for themselves, to fight for others. So let their courage be our inspiration. Let their determination be our charge. And I'll close with this. There's an adage an historian once called a law of history, true of every society across the ages. The adage is, only when it is dark enough can you see the stars. I know many people feel like we are entering a dark time, but for the benefit of us all, I hope that is not the case. But here's the thing, America, if it is, let us fill the sky with the light of a brilliant, brilliant billion of stars. The light of optimism, of faith, of truth, and service.
Once again, she doesn't actually ever say anything.
And may that work guide us, even in the face of setbacks, toward the extraordinary promise of the United States of America. I thank you all. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. I thank you all.
is Kamala Harris, this explosive concession. You can see her husband there. And when I say explosive, I know that I had somebody earlier trying to say, oh, that was like clickbait or something. No. There was an exact moment that she exploded. Let's see if we can find it, everybody. There was an exact moment that she did explode. And it's when the live stream is over. That's when I'll be able to go through it a little bit. And we'll be able to see the exact moment as to which Kamala Harris exploded. Because the thing is she did explode during this. She did absolutely explode during this. Anybody, if you're also watching, don't forget to like this video. Subscribe to the channel. Please subscribe to the channel. Trying to grow and everything. It's a lot of fun to do this, but I also want to make sure that these messages get heard by a lot of different people. And so let's keep bringing that up. But there was an explosive moment in this. There was a moment in which you could see that she flipped. And it was the moment, I don't know if you guys remember it. We'll find it here in a second. But it was when she said, I might be conceding this race, but we're not conceding more. There was a few times where you could tell the fuse was lit. The fuse was lit prior to, and you were like, oh man, is she going to explode? No. But it was the moment as to which she said that she was getting ready, or that she was, here we go, let's see if that she was conceding.
Transition. And that we will engage in a peaceful transfer of power.
So that's one part where I was like, oh, is this going to be the explosion? Is this going to be the explosion? I'll play you guys like the 30 seconds right here.
And background. United by love of transfer of, but we must accept the results of this election. Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him,
ooh, that's what everybody's saying,
that we will
try
help
more
him
liberals
and his team with their transition, and that we will engage in a peaceful transfer of power.
Okay, so here's the thing that you're going to hear. This is what point where I was like, oh my gosh, maybe this is the explosion. It wasn't quite the explosion, but it was definitely a part where I was like, oh my gosh, the fuse is getting lit. And the reason why the fuse was getting lit right here is because this is what the Democrats are going to say, is not only are they going to come out and say that because they can no longer in this election, because Donald Trump actually won the popular vote, they can't fall back and say, well, it's the Electoral College's fault. It's the Electoral College's fault. He's not actually the president because the Electoral College is faulty. And it's a faulty system. Well, even by their democracy standard, which we're not a democracy, we're a constitutional republic. Even by their democracy standard, Donald Trump still won. Donald Trump still won. By every verifiable metric, Donald Trump blew Kamala Harris out of the water. And thus, what do they have to do? They have to find a way to where they can say, oh my gosh, I won somehow. How can I win? Well, for the last few years, they've been claiming that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy because he staged an insurrection, which if you actually saw it, was not an insurrection. There was people that committed breaking and entering onto federal property, but by no means was it an insurrection, and by no means did Donald Trump play any part in encouraging it. In fact, he played an active part in discouraging it. But that's not what the left would have you believe, and that's not what anybody at this Kamala Harris event believed. And so she pushes this idea that, oh, well, the way I won is because I'm going to have a peaceful transition of power. And the whole time giving a not so subtle wink and an FU to the narrative that the leftist media has been pushing for 4 years. That Donald Trump staged an insurrection, and that by having a peaceful transition of power, that's how they won. In my opinion, I'll call it out as being crap, but at the same time, I'll let them have it. Take the win. Take the win. Because I'll take ours and be a lot happier with it. So I appreciate the comments and everything, guys. Keep commenting. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and everything like that. But I want to get to the point as to which she exploded. Because I did promise an explosion in the title. I did promise an explosion in the title. And so we'll get to the point. This was a light of the match. But the point at which she actually concedes. Let's find that exact moment.
While I concede
right here. Actually, I found it perfectly. So let's this exact moment right here. When I can point to it. The moment at which she explodes. Take a look.
Is why I am here to say, while I concede this election, I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign.
When she says, I do not. Because you can even hear a slight shift in her tone of voice. You can even hear the slight shift in the tone of voice when she says, I do not concede. Listen closely. One more time. She concedes the election calmly. And then, boom, boom, a small explosion that from the fuse hitting. And then you hear how she speaks after that. Not only a change in tone, accent, but also a change in messaging. Take a listen.
While I concede this election, I do not
Right there.
concede the fight that fueled this campaign.
That was the explosion. I do not. And then that's how she got, then the cheers, of course, the audience recognizing the explosion.
The fight for freedom, for opportunity.
And then she starts talking, and I'm going to play just about a minute, but I want to really break down exactly what she's doing right here. I've been in politics for a long time. I've written political speeches. I've given political speeches. I will tell you what she's doing right now is she is saying nothing while trying to convince you that she's saying a lot. Listen to what she just said for those last 8 seconds. After the applause, listen.
The fight for freedom.
For freedom.
For opportunity.
And for opportunity.
For fairness.
For fairness. What does any of that actually mean? What does any of that actually mean to her? It means nothing. It really means nothing. And she doesn't really mean anything by it. Because these are these giveaway words. And the Democrats especially, Republicans use words like freedom and stuff too. Usually they end up going into what their ideas actually relate to the idea of freedom. But let's focus on Kamala right now. When she says freedom, what does she actually mean? She doesn't mean anything. They use these throwaway words that catch your brain. It's kind of like a TikTok. What she's doing is she's giving you a TikTok. She's using these quick words that hopefully draw you in and catch you. And so then you'll remember, oh, that speech, it was about freedom and opportunity and joy and love. And that's what she does. Keep listening.
And the dignity of all people. A fight.
The dignity of all people. So even Nazis? You want Nazis to have dignity. She's not saying anything. If you actually were to dissect what she says, she either wouldn't agree with it or she wouldn't even know what she said.
For the ideals at the heart of our nation, the ideals that reflect America at our best.
What actually are those ideals? Because she never articulated a single, then she gets into things like abortion. Well, abortion was never an ideal that was fundamental to our nation. You could make an argument that there's a legal precedent for it, but never once did anybody found this nation and was like, man, you know what ideal I really want? The ability for a mother to terminate her unwanted pregnancy, or in a more harsh way that a founder probably would have put it, is for a mother to be able to kill her unborn child. No founding father, that was never an ideal that was fundamental to our country. Or the ability of the government to take firearms away from citizens, another thing she referenced in that speech, that was not actually an ideal that was ever fundamental to this country. Once again, you could make arguments that maybe there's a legal precedent for it. I wouldn't make those arguments because I believe in making sound and good arguments, but you could try to make those arguments. However, you'd be very, very hard pressed to believe that that's an ideal that this country actually stands upon.
That is a fight I will never give up.
So the fight that she says she'll never get up, the fight for freedom, the fight for opportunity, the fight for dignity of all people, and the ideals that are ideal for the ideal of this country. She says a lot of words while saying virtually nothing. And that is why Kamala lost, because not only does she not listen, she doesn't listen, she doesn't speak, she talks. And I mean that in a poetic sense. Just like how people will say, like, somebody doesn't listen, they hear. You can hear what I'm saying, but not actually listen to the words. She doesn't speak to the American people. Nor has she ever spoken for the American people, but she does talk to them. And so the moment at which Kamala exploded was right when she said, I do not concede the fight. And the way you know she exploded is because when something explodes, if you were to take a small piece of dynamite, say you have an M80 on 4th of July, and you were to put it out, you were to light it, and it exploded, there'd be nothing left. Nothing left. And so the moment at which Kamala said, I do not concede this election, but I concede the election, but I do not concede the fight, she exploded. Because she started like an M80 going in all these different directions, freedom, opportunity, and the ideals, the idea of the ideal. And at the end, we go to the end. What's at the end, everybody?
Promise of the United States of America. I thank you all. May God bless you, and may God bless the United
There's another
States.
thing, another way that she exploded. She went off on a God tangent. And at the end, there's nothing left. There is nothing left. This was an explosion of a speech. And no, she didn't necessarily go on a tirade about how Trump was a Nazi or anything like that. But she exploded in the fact that she went in every different direction and ultimately had nothing left. But if you guys really want to see some explosions, we can take a look at things like this right here. Take a look and a listen at this compilation of people just from today.
You have rights tomorrow.
Yo, I'm scared to go to sleep. I might wake up a motherfucking slave.
Anyone else having a meltdown? I don't know how to do this. Right now, I'm just not. I can't fucking deal with this shit right now. I am 48 years old and I have never experienced anything like this and never thought I would in this country.
Okay, you're 48 years old and you have never... she says it as if like this is the hardest pain she's ever had. My gosh, these people. This is what happens when you don't have God in your life.
I'm so stressed. I don't know how to handle this. I don't know how to get through the next couple days.
Oh, poor babies. Poor babies. Cry, cry, cry. Like a Johnny Cash song. And here's the thing, and I got some more clips of these things. I think they're absolutely hilarious of these people. And I'll even probably do a further breakdown of kind of some of the fallout that we're seeing from these people. But like when you look at how these people are reacting to all of this, you'd think that like somebody serious in their life died. But really what died is the fact of this is what happens. Not even what died. What we're seeing is this is what happens when you have nothing else to live for. Like when you are a slave to your secular or even atheistic ideology, this is what happens. I go to Liberty University. And I'm here for law school. And it's a very, very Christian campus. I'm a Catholic and not everybody here is Catholic, and that becomes its own issue. Sometimes we get into a lot of theological debates, but fundamentally everybody here is, for the most part, vast majority is Christian, right? And so I talked to a lot of people yesterday. If you watched my live stream, you saw I in our Turning Point chapter here at Liberty, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people there. And so I talked to a lot of them, and I told all of them, because I had some people come up to me and be like, Kev, I have anxiety about this election. I'm stressed. I'm worried about the outcome. I wasn't really like I was pretty sure Trump would win, but I can understand some people having an anxiety. And I told people, I said, well, here's the thing. One, God has a plan. Trust the plan. And if God's gonna tell us that Trump was not the winner yesterday, if that was going to be the plan, there's got to be a reason for it. I believe that Joe Biden, I said the same thing in 2020. I said there's got to be a reason for this, for why Joe Biden won in 2020. It's got to be so that we can learn a lesson. And I firmly believe that it was. It was so that when you get somebody that can give you everything, or says that he's going to give you everything, Like Joe Biden. Joe Biden said he was gonna, we're gonna make sure, and all these promises, we're gonna help people with housing. Everything's gonna be great. Everybody's gonna have money. It's all gonna be, oh my gosh. What happens? The economy gets worse. Immigration gets flooded. People die at the hands of illegal immigration. Abortion, not legal federal nationwide. All these promises he made, where'd they go? If you don't trust that there's a plan in place by a higher power, you're going to react like these people. And then secondly, you also have to have a mindset. You can tell a lot of these people obviously did no work. Like I guarantee you there's some of these people probably didn't even vote. I'm willing to bet. Because anybody who actually has ever done any work in an election or in a campaign or in politics knows that there is at least one that at best, the outcome is that you have more work to do after the election. Like, think about it. Donald Trump got in. He still has a lot of promises to deliver on. Now, I voted for him, and part of the reason why I did was because I believe he will deliver on those promises. But he still has work to do. People that were on his campaign still have work to do. We have more people to get elected. We have more policy to try to implement. We have more work to do. And at worst case scenario, if Donald Trump were to have lost, anybody who was on the movement, your worst case scenario is also that you have more work to do. And so for anybody to be reacting to the election like this, that thinks that, oh my gosh, it's all over, I'm going to give up, it's due to the lack of work ethic and God. And I believe those go tandem, because I believe that those that have a harder work ethic are influenced by a higher power. People that get things done are influenced by a higher power. And when I say a higher power, I mean something that is more powerful than us, because there are those that are motivated by God, and there are those that are motivated by evil. Whatever you want to call it. The devil, Satan, Beelzebub, whatever. There are people that are motivated by him. And so, those that are willing to work are motivated by one of those two. These people are motivated by those that are motivated by evil. Otherwise, they would wake up today like I did on November 5th or 6th, 2020. I woke up that day after Donald Trump was announced to have lost, which is its own question. How is it that Joe Biden got 81 million votes and Kamala only gets like 66? Like, let's talk about that for a second. I don't have time for it tonight. We'll get to it later this week. But hold that thought. How is it that somebody who doesn't wake up today, even on the losing side, and doesn't think that we have more work to do? I know there's a lot of negatives in there. Let me clarify. Even if you lost today, your thought waking up, if you're not a loser, an actual loser, should be, I have more work to do. And not in the way Kamala says it. Not in the way of like, we fought hard and we fought, like, so much hypocrisy in her entire speech, in the idea of like, oh my gosh, I was saying this whole time that Trump is Hitler and we're going to basically become Nazi Germany if he becomes president. But now I'm going to tell you in my concession speech, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be just fine. What a liar. What a hypocritical liar. No. If you actually are a liberal and a Democrat, you should say, hey, what went wrong? What went wrong? And wake up saying, let's fix that. Because that's what Republicans did 4 years ago. And look at where we are now. Look at where we are now. Nonetheless, it's still really fun to watch some of these people. So let's take a look and listen at this one.
Knowing that I woke up, bitch, it's not about a fucking book. Fuck that shit right now. Knowing that I went to bed, that fucking man was ahead a little bit, but waking up to this man, literally, you're 4 points of fucking weight. Not only shows me how racist, which, hello, wake up, you black, you're aware of that. It not only shows me how racist this country is, misogynistic, y'all. We're at the point where I I'm convinced y'all do not want to get ahead. Y'all had y'all glory fucking days in the back. Y'all hate to see a Black, a Latino, anybody that's in LGBTQ plus, a woman being happy doing shit on her fucking own. Because to wake up and seeing it being that close, and I'm seeing comments where people are like, I'm in another country. I don't know how this is happening. Wake up! This is fucking America, and this is sad. And every fucking body, any person that I still follow that has voted for him,
This has got to be sad.
I'm not even gonna say what my thoughts is, but trust I will be acting on my thoughts.
This person can't be real, right? Like seriously, like, this person can't be real.
And I know this, I might lose some brand deals for what I'm about to say. But every Black person that I've ever seen that said I'm for Trump in this current state, every Latino, every non-white male, let's keep it what it is.
What a racist. I don't know how she finishes that off, but that's the end of the clip that I got there. And what a racist. Like, that's probably one of the most racist people I've ever seen. I don't know about you guys, but she seems to focus on race significantly. I hated Tim Walz as much, if not more. I should say I dislike. I dislike Tim Walz. I don't hate. Shouldn't say that. Sorry. I dislike Tim Walz as much, if not more, than Kamala Harris. And it's not just because I think he's a little fruity. I think he was also just terrible at articulating any level of policy. And I think he was a sympathizer to China. I mean, he had an affair with a Chinese spy at one point. So what a racist. Absolutely, Carl. You're absolutely right. What a racist. What a racist. But what this ultimately comes down, once again, and if I haven't said it again enough, is it comes down to the fact that people don't listen. I mean, you even have another clip from The View earlier today. The Democrats did not listen. That's why they lost. They're going to hear all these different reasons. This is why they lost. This is why they lost. Just like Kamala threw and exploded all these different things like, we fight for freedom, we fight for optimism, we fight for blah, 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 blah. You have people that are throwing all these different kinds of things at the wall to see what sticks, because it can't be the fact that Kamala was a bad candidate, because that would be racist and sexist to say that she's a bad candidate. It can't be the fact that Tim Walz is a terrible VP pick. No, because Kamala made that pick, and she's maybe they will try to come after Tim Walz. But then you're also seeing things like this, because they can't say that it's Trump's fault either, because Trump won. So, like, obviously there's something that people like about him. So instead, no, it's actually your fault, everybody. It is your fault, because you voted you voted for Trump and not for Kamala. And so even Joy and the rest of her joyless folks agree.
Well, it would help if we could regulate social media, because one of the biggest offenders is DC and Congress have not been able to do one thing in regard to the rogue corporations of social media. It's not going to get any better with Elon Musk now in the administration.
So the issue is the fact that you're able to communicate freely on social media sites. Listen to that one more time. It's the fact that you can't regulate social media.
Because one of the biggest offenders is DC and Congress have not been able to do one thing in regard to the rogue corporations of social media.
It's all the rogue. It's because DC and Congress won't regulate your ability to speak freely. That's the problem. The elites in their ivory towers, once again, can't get a grip on reality, and so they seek, because it could not actually be that the average American really wants lower gas prices. It can't be that. It can't be that. And then I think she's supposed to be almost the Republican. I think she still voted for Kamala, but her name, Alyssa Farah Griffin, on The View today, this is the most sane take. This was the most sane take. She almost got there. She almost got there in the right. Also, this is actually a great comment I want to get to real quick. Rogue corporations like ABC, CBS, NBC. That's hilarious. And I love that. That's a phenomenal take, by the way. I'm really happy that you brought that up. But this was probably the most sane take from Melissa. And she still misses on a few points of it. But I will give it. And it's like how there's best reasons that still aren't good. This was the best take that still isn't great. Take a look and listen.
It is a moment to listen to the voters. And this, I have to say, I've always thought he could win. I thought in the final stretch she might eke it out. I didn't expect it to be this resounding. And I think there are some lessons from it. I think we forget about rural America. I think the working class feels left behind. They feel like the powerful, the elite only care about them and their power. And he spoke to them. We may not have liked his words, but they turned out for him. I mean, the map was, it was beyond Reagan what we saw last.
It wasn't beyond Reagan's second election, but get the point.
Last night. And I think we need to start listening more about the concerns of everyday Americans who.
Did you hear that in the background? Listen.
Start listening more tonight. And I think we need to
not really. It's like, I think Joy in the background, but not really. No. It's not really.
Start listening more about the concerns of everyday Americans who feel like this system is failing.
When Reagan won
it is.
So then they try to start arguing about the Reagan thing and trying to discredit her. Well, the fact of the matter is what she said was actually the closest thing to the reality of it. Once again, we can go back to some of these Fox News statistics. They did not care about, they focused their election on abortion, healthcare, and climate change instead of the economy and jobs and immigration. Then you can even get up to like this one. Let me find, I want to find, there was one specific that I thought was really, really telling. And it's this. How much change in the way the U.S. is run? This is asking people, how much do you think we need to change? Well, I don't know if you guys remember, but pretty early on in this election, Vivek Ramaswamy, and I know he's a controversial figure to some in American politics due to things like religion and kind of some of his business dealings and the people he's affiliated with. But ultimately, he said early on in this election, he said that this election was going to be a revolutionary moment, that this was going to be a revolutionary moment. Well, actually, I think it's a lot more real than even the colloquial saying that he kind of referenced. I mean, you have almost 80%, 27 say total upheaval is the amount of change that's needed. And then you have 56% that say there needs to be substantial change in this election. That's what they said. How much change in the way the U.S. is run? 27% there needs to be total upheaval, and 56 say substantial change. And then when you have that many people, saying there needs to be this level of change, that is revolutionary. That is revolutionary. And this really hits on the fundamental idea of what America was meant to be. This election is so fundamental. It's fascinating that we will have during this presidential cycle in 2026, we will have the 250th anniversary of America, 250 years of America. And the last presidential election prior to was truly a revolutionary election due to numbers like this, due to numbers like 27% believe that basically a revolution was necessary. 56% believe that a substantial change was necessary. This was a revolutionary election in the fact that we had a paradigm shift that you could see all the way starting almost like 18 months ago with the Dylan Mulvaney Bud Light backlash. That's when you could start seeing truly the paradigm shift that we had for this election that has made it, like Vivek Ramaswamy said, this was a revolution. This was a revolution in the form of which America was meant for. This is the most American election in my lifetime for this exact fact. That 80% of people believe that this country needed at least substantial change, and they implemented it. If this doesn't give you further faith that the system works, even after several years of maybe questioning things such as how the heck Joe Biden got 81 million votes, when you look at the last 4 elections of Democrats, or you look at both Obama's terms and Kamala Harris's, and both of them are between 60 and 70 million votes, and then all of a sudden Joe Biden gets 81. If you question the legitimacy of the last election, you're not crazy, but this should tell you that at least when you make it too big to rig, Donald Trump will fulfill on his promise that the best is yet to come. But that's the last thing I want to end on for today, because I do have some big essays coming up for law school. But I want to end on this message of both hope but caution, everybody. Donald Trump did win this election. Donald Trump won this election in what really was a landslide. We still have some races that are called. We have the Senate right now. We have the House. I'm going to break down some more of that probably with Josh Bender later in the week. But there's work still to be done, and I hinted at this earlier. We vote once every 4 years, but we got to remember what we voted for. Donald Trump made a lot of promises. I believe he'll fulfill them. But it's a lot of work to win an election. It's even more work to do what you said you were going to do. And so we had a trial period of Joe Biden. We had a trial period of what nears socialism into potentially communism. We had a trial period of what the country looks like when we sacrifice our own power on the world stage. We had a trial period of all of that. And that's what happens. We saw just what happens when somebody wins an election who doesn't deserve it and then does not do the work to follow it up. If you think that your prayers were answered because Donald Trump won, you might be in part right, but that does not mean you should stop praying. Because whether or not Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, whether or not Kamala Harris or President-elect Trump won last night, I would still be praying for whoever got voted in. Because I pray, because America is more than just one man. America is more than just Donald Trump. America is more than just me. It's more than just you. America is an idea that's generations old and God willing will be here for generations to come. And the leadership of this presidency and the promises being fulfilled are imperative to the continuation of the great American experiment started nearly 250 years ago. So as Donald Trump has said, the best is yet to come. And while you think that this election has been a lot of work, whether or not you're even working on the campaign, I'm willing to bet you probably saw the amount of work that was put in, if not experienced it yourself. Not only is the best yet to come, the hardest work is yet to come. So join me in covering that, talking about it, and ensuring that truth prevails. So please don't forget to like this video, of course, but subscribe to the channel and follow me everywhere. I have different content on different platforms. And not only are we going to be courting and displaying what happens over this next presidency and this election cycle and how it ends and how this new chapter of American progress begins, but you'll also get to see how it's like going through law school and how stressful that is. So everybody subscribe to the channel, comment what you think, never stop commenting. I appreciate everybody who's been in the comments today. Hippie, my people, my friends over on Rumble, I appreciate that so much. Carl, thank you for joining a little bit in there too. Ryan, Demon Goral, everybody, Analia, thank you. I don't think I've seen you before. Thank you for joining. Everybody, thank you. Make sure you ring that notification bell, hit it to all. The best is yet to come. The hardest work is yet to come. God bless you. God bless America. And thank you so much for watching Speechless.